Welcome back. So last time we were dealing with the formation of disulfide bridge. Now we are moving on to the ionization of amino acids. Actually, the COOH group and also the amino group on the amino acids are ionizable, which means the NH2 group may accept a proton and may become NH3 plus, while COOH group may lose a proton and may become COO minus. Normally, in the physiological conditions, the net charge on the amino acid is 0. And in an acidic medium, when the pH is low, what happens, this amino acid may have a net positive charge. And in a basic medium, when the pH is high, when the concentration of protons is low, because of the loss of proton from the amino group, the net charge of the amino acid may be negative. So what is isoelectric pH? Isoelectric pH is the pH at which the amino acid does not have any charge. I mean net charge. At the isoelectric pH, the net charge on an amino acid will be 0. And therefore it is not going to migrate in an electric field. An electric field is a field where there is a positive charge at one end and there is a negative charge at the other end. If we keep a negatively charged ion at one part of this charge field, it will be attracted towards the opposite electrode. On the other hand, if we keep a positive ion in this electric field, you know that it will be attracted towards the negative electrode, which means a charged particle has a tendency to migrate towards the electrode of the opposite charge if it is kept in an electric field. And usually amino acids migrate like that because these amino acids have a net charge. And isoelectric pH is the pH at which net charge on the amino acid is 0. And sometimes this amino acid may bear both the charges. You see, this is the non-ionic form. R group is there, H is there, amino group NH2 is there, COOH is there. There is no ionic nature for this amino acid. But this is true only theoretically. And in reality, there may be both a negative charge and a positive charge on the amino acid. And when an amino acid is bearing both a negative charge and a positive charge, we say it is in the zwitterionic form. Zwitterion means hybrid ion, dipolar ion. Both negative and positive charges are there on the same molecule. And at neutral pH, the amino acids are usually in the zwitterionic form. Remember, this is a zwitterion. It may behave as an acid. What's an acid? An acid is a donor of protons. So NH3 plus by donating a proton can become an NH2. It can also behave as a base. What's a base? A base is an acceptor of proton. A base is an acceptor of proton. By accepting a proton, this negative charge may be neutralized. So such molecules are actually ampholytes or amphoteric in nature. A molecule that is bearing both negative and positive charges, which can act both as an acid and as a base, are said to be amphoteric in nature. And I told you, amino acids join together to form protein. How the amino acids are joined? The joining is always between the carboxylic group of one amino acid and the amino group of the other amino acid. Look here, this is an amino acid. We have written here R1. This is the second amino acid. We have written R2. Remember, when we write like this, the NH3 group, the amino group should be on the left side and carboxyl group should be on the right side. So, what happens? The OH group of the carboxyl group and the hydrogen atom of the amino group are nearby. They will join together to form a molecule of water. And this carboxylic carbon is bonded with this amino nitrogen. This is the bond produced. This bond is called peptide bond. This bond between carbonyl carbon of one amino acid and amino nitrogen of the second amino acid is said to be a peptide bond. P E P T I T D E, peptide bond. And a peptide bond is formed by condensation. What do you mean by the term condensation? By the loss of a molecule of water. Now this is a dipeptide. Why is this a dipeptide? Di means how many? Two. So this molecule now consists of two amino acids joined together by a peptide linkage. So this is a dipeptide. If there are three amino acids in a peptide, then what do we call it? Tripeptide. And if there are a few amino acids in the peptide, we call it oligopeptide. And when there are so many amino acids, we use the term polypeptide. There cannot be something called a monopeptide because a peptide consists of minimum two amino acids joined together using a peptide bond. This is a peptide, exactly not a polypeptide, but a few amino acids are there. So we use the term an oligopeptide. What is shown here is actually the peptide bond. So these are all the peptide bonds. You count the number of amino acids. You can see this is an R group, R group, R group, R group and R group. You try to identify the name of these amino acids. What is more important is this. On the extreme left, a free amino group is there. We call it amino terminal end or amino terminal. On the extreme right, there is a free carboxyl terminal. A free carboxyl group is there. That is the carboxyl terminal end. The peptide bonds are shown here like this. So every proteins, when we represent, will have an amino terminal end on the left side and a carboxyl terminal end on the right side. And these are actually conjugated proteins. In the nature, proteins may join with other non-protein molecules, non-protein components. Together we call them prosthetic group. Ultimately what is formed is a conjugated protein. Lipoprotein means proteins are assembled with lipids. Glycoprotein means proteins are combined with carbohydrate. Phosphoprotein means proteins are combined with the phosphate group. Hemoproteins are actually iron porphyrins, protein combined with the heme iron. Flavoproteins means proteins combined with the flavin nucleotide, and metalloproteins means proteins combined with the metallic ions. Many of them are enzymes. I did not tell you the difference between a protein and a polypeptide. Here I told you what's a polypeptide. A polypeptide is a peptide that consists of so many amino acids. And in the next slide we use the term protein. Is there any difference between polypeptide and a protein? Actually, a protein may consist of one or more polypeptide chains. A protein is actually polypeptides which are carrying out a functional activity in the living body. Sometimes that functional unit that functional unit may consist of only a single polypeptide chain, but sometimes it may consist of two or more polypeptide chains. For example, hemoglobin. Hemoglobin consists of four polypeptide chains, while insulin consists of two polypeptide chains. And you might have heard of another proteinaceous hormone produced from the islets of Langerhans in the pancreas. One of them is insulin. What is the other one? It is responsible for increasing the concentration of glucose in the blood. That hormone is actually made up of only a single polypeptide chain. This is the summary of what we studied so far. In the next heading, we are moving on to the levels of organization.